Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today we'll learn how to achieve long-term success while living a rich life with investor and author, certified financial planner, Eric Brotman. Helping us with today's topic, we also welcome the Taylor Swift of this podcast, Len Penzo. What, did you think I was going to say afford anything's Paula Pant? Yeah, she's here too. Great news. But that's not all. Halfway through the show, I'll share some incredibly friendly trivia. And now, a guy who's the Ross to my Joey, it's Joe Saul-Sehy.
I lost a storyline there somewhere, Doug. Does that mean we're in love? Are we dating? Is there what's going on?
No, Ross and Joey they're like frenemies. Ah, really?
Yes.
That's the way I always viewed them, which is, just like you and I.
Could probably be true. Happy Friday.
I want to be Chandler, but I think I'm Joey.
He knows which $1 million an episode star he is. Yeah. We've got a fantastic show for you today because we are talking about Taylor Swift, everybody. It's going to be great. And of course, we thought of Taylor Swift and we immediately thought we got to have this guy back. The guy from the Don't Retire podcast, which he graduated from. Mr. Eric Brotman's here. How are you,
I'm
dude?
great. And I was going to wear the glitter and all the friendship bracelets like it was a T Swift show, but I forgot. I left them home, but maybe next time.
Oh, well,
but he's got his
I'm a little
on.
disappointed. Thank goodness the YouTube camera starts at the chest. It goes up. Yes.
I won't stand up, Doug. I won't do it.
And so what are you doing now? Tell us what happened to the podcast, because I know we've got stackers out there going, hey, what happened?
Well, the podcast, we closed our 5th season and decided to stop the show. And what I've told people is I wanted to go out. It's funny you mentioned Joey. I wanted to go out like Friends and not like Game of Thrones, which was on a high. We had done a lot of what we set out to do. And the second edition and the new sort of 2.0 of the book is coming out later this year. And I want to focus on it because when Don't Retire, Graduate, the book and workbook were published, it was right as COVID was starting. And I couldn't do any book promotion or a tour or anything like that. And so I'm just getting ready to start promoting the new edition of the book, which I'm excited about. And we're fleshing out ideas for maybe a different show, more of a roundtable, and thinking about something like Diary of a Financial Advisor. And so we're still fleshing that out, but thinking about stories that could be fun for people to hear and hopefully keep it light and keep it amusing.
That's fabulous. That sounds fantastic, by the way. And with you driving that ship, I'm sure it's going to be fun and we're going to learn a ton, and I can't wait. Sorry. And speaking of can't wait, that's Paula Pant there, who is magically going, hey, you haven't called on me yet.
That was
bring your own sound effects, Paula?
That was my phone alerting me that it's time to Be Real. Do you know the Be Real app?
No.
It's the antithesis of posed, filtered social media.
Oh, God, you guys are so old. I can't believe you don't know this.
Because so much of what we see online is like an Instagram filter, TikTok filter, right? We see these filtered, posed, perfect lighting, perfect shot. You take 100 photos to get that one really good angle. And that becomes the reality that we see on social media. And that's our basis of comparison. So Be Real is like the antithesis to that. It sends you an alert at a random time of day. And when you get the alert, you have 2 minutes to take a picture. And
let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're doing it.
What are you
doing
doing?
it. Okay,
come on.
So here we go. All right.
Can I flip
Okay,
that?
ready? Smile. 3, 2, 1. Oh, so cute. All right. You are now all on the Be Real. I will make sure that I share that with you so you can put it in the basement if you
And that ends this episode of Stacking Benjamins. Thanks for coming, everybody. We made our social media mark. I'm sure that we're going viral. And speaking of viral, the guy who's grown on us like a rash the last decade, Mr. Len Penzo's here. How are you, man?
You know what? I've been busy. I was just, I've been interviewing 7 CEOs. I was trying to figure out their secret to success. And you know what's really what's really amazing is they all told me the same thing.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
and what was it?
What are you doing in my house?
Oh.
Wow.
Well, that's
Woo.
probably not. I'm need
here
the
all week,
crickets.
Joe, how
not
long
that
is
one.
this episode?
Yes, apparently too long, Eric.
Okay, good.
It's too long because he got that in. Yes.
Sorry.
Do you guys actually want to hear Len's next joke?
Yeah.
No.
I do.
No.
Play it.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Len, tell us another one.
Oh my God.
You must have another one like that, Len.
You want to hear
must
another?
have another.
You want to hear another?
Yeah.
Stop
Oh
it.
my God.
Stop it. Oh my God.
How come you didn't tell that one
You're
first?
incorrigible.
Oh. Eric Brotman's here, Len Penzo, Paula Pant, neighbor Doug. We're talking Taylor Swift today, so let's go. Well, I don't get to say this often. Today's topic comes to us from slashfilm.com. Len, I can't remember the last time I said our topic for the roundtable, financial planning serious roundtable, comes from Slashfilm.
I never even heard of that site, but yes, it was a great site, actually. I enjoyed the article.
Yes. Yeah, this is a great piece. We'll link to it in the show notes, but don't worry, guys. You don't need to read it to know what we're going to talk about. This is written by Hannah Shaw Williams earlier this month. And Hannah wrote, "Karma is a god. Hollywood studios underestimate Taylor Swift and are losing out on millions." And Paula, just going to you, do you mind just summarizing kind of what Taylor Swift did to Hollywood here?
Yeah, absolutely. So broadly speaking, in Hollywood, there's the producer of a movie, there's the distributor of a movie, and then there's the movie theater that ultimately shows the movie. So you've got these three major players. So Taylor Swift during the Eras tour, she produced a movie.
Never heard of it.
She produced a movie. She hired a director. She gave it a budget of somewhere between 10 to 20 million. And with the director, they produced a movie, right? So normally what would happen at that stage in the process is they would then take that to a major Hollywood distributor and say, hey, distributor, can you please be the intermediary that helps us distribute this to movie theaters? Well, they ended up getting a couple of snags. They started that process, but they ended up hitting a few snags along the road. And so they decided, you know what, let's just skip the middleman. Let's go to the theaters directly. So Taylor Swift and her team went to the movie theaters. They went to AMC Theater and did a direct deal with them. And then they used a small distribution company to do a deal with some of the smaller theaters as well, smaller theater chains.
It's amazing. Eric, you went to see the Eras tour live, right?
Of course. How could I miss that?
Yeah. And did you see Film Cruise while you were doing it?
I didn't, and I assure you I was looking for them because I knew there'd be a movie and I wanted to wind up getting a cameo of some kind. I thought that would help the ratings for the film. Actually, it would probably make it less PG, sadly. But no, I did go to the show, and she was absolutely fantastic. I had never been to a show like that before, and I've gone to dozens, if not 100 concerts in my lifetime. But it was a unique experience. It was a love fest in every way. I mean, the people there, the vibe was incredibly kind and incredibly gracious and incredibly happy to be there. And of course, there were merchandise stampedes and such. But to the best of my knowledge, no one was injured during the making of her film.
But let's chat about her kind of, doing what some of our stackers do, DIYing it. In this case, she probably saved millions, Eric, by avoiding Hollywood.
Maybe more than that. I mean, the cut that you have to give to a middleman in almost any industry, but particularly in entertainment, since that's what we're talking about, it's significant, and it does make a difference to your bottom line. And there are other artists who have done these kinds of, for lack of a more gracious term, these backdoor or these skip over type deals. I remember there was a kerfuffle between Metallica and Napster back in the day.
I remember that.
And
Not a kerfuffle.
I think it was I think it was in fact a kerfuffle. It might have been a dust up, but I don't think it trumped a dust up.
Goodness.
At any rate,
Donnybrook?
it was a true row bottom. All right, thank you, Doug. No, but they had a real issue with them, and of course Taylor's been through so much with the folks who owned her catalog that she's re-releasing all of her albums. And it's a unique situation where she doesn't own some of her early work. And so because they wouldn't let her have it back, she said, all right, hold my beer. And she's doing them again and asking radio stations and streamers and all these people to play her version so that it bypasses the folks. So basically she's trying to harm the folks who've essentially taken her work. And I feel for her as somebody who's written books, including one that a producer I should say an editor owned, that I could not get back.
Your editor owned your book.
It was the first time I had ever written a book. I was hired. I was an author for hire. And this was 15, 20 years ago, but I wrote a book. I was very proud of it. I was very excited about it. And it was just in time for the global financial crisis. And the book came out, and then the publisher went out of business because it was 2008. Lots of people so they went out of business, and I wanted to capture my own work and couldn't. And to this day, attorneys have said, you can do it, but if it goes well, you should expect a phone call. And so I just said, to heck with it, I'll start over and do something different. But
did you contact the editor and say, hey, can I have my
absolutely.
Editor was like, no.
Editor was nowhere to be found. The publisher was nowhere to be found. They had gone out of business. They were gone. I presume, well, it was a new experience for me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
the check cleared when they paid me to write the book, and it does exist. And it was a lot of fun to do. And I learned how to write a book. So I consider it a valuable experience, despite the fact that it was, it's frustrating to know that I created something that's not mine.
It's interesting, Len, that, to Eric's point, Eric learned a lesson from that experience. He also outlined how really a lot of this, maybe Taylor Swift learning a lesson from early on. I would think that you've had some experiences like that too, where there's been some middlemen in the middle of your life where you're like, oh, maybe that didn't go the way it should have, and maybe I need to do that differently.
Well, I don't know is it a middleman or not, but I mean, I've learned some lessons, some hard lessons where maybe if I did have a middleman, I would have not gotten a bad situation that I did. I think I told the story before of, I was negotiating. I bought a new house and I needed irrigation in my property, and I was a little tight on cash because I just bought the home, and I had got some estimates from irrigation contractors, and one irrigation contractor finally, he was low, but I wanted him to go lower, and I negotiated the crap out of the guy, and I really, I really brought him down from almost 50% off of his low estimate, which was the lowest of the three that I had received. So he agreed to do it. And I ended up paying for that because it turns out within a year, all the pipes in my yard were bursting because he was using substandard equipment. And I wish somebody had told me, I had an advisor that had told me, hey man, it's one thing to get a low price. It's another thing to get a price that, that has real value in it. And you don't get, the contractors are going to do what they have to do. They have to make money too.
Yeah, that's interesting because you got the person who's, I don't know if they're really a middleman. I don't know if this is congruent, but is putting in the sprinkler system. It would have been good, you're saying, to have an advisor on the side going, hey, ease up on this person because you might need them to service it later.
Yeah, even a general, if I'd had it, I don't think you would do this but if I had a general contractor there, somebody who was, more intelligent in that kind of industry, that would be saying, hey, dude, you're going way overboard with this guy, and he's taking the job because he's hungry and he needs the money, but he's getting, he's going to cut corners, whatever he has to make his money too. So, and I didn't,
yeah.
And that ended up costing me in the long run, obviously, because I had to go and get everything redone. It was crazy.
It's funny because on your end, Len, you could have used somebody to give you some advice on that. Mine was exactly the opposite. I remember when I was 17, I took my car, this old beat up Monte Carlo. Doug, you had a Monte Carlo, didn't you?
No, Joe. I still have my El Camino.
Yeah, but I'm talking about way back in the day. I had a Monte Carlo Landau that was
no. It was Chrysler TC3.
Yeah. This thing was so bad. I had left it outside too many times too with the windows open, and so the glue that held up the ceiling was no longer there. You guys have seen this before. So the little fabric on the roof all hung down, and so had that going on. The thing was it was a disaster. I took it to get a new muffler, and this is my first time going anywhere without my dad. And this dude comes out in the waiting room and goes, man, is this your Monte Carlo back here? I said, yeah. He's like, hey, come here. You can see how the suspension in this and the shocks aren't very good. He's like, you should probably, while you're here, you should get the shocks redone. I'm like, oh, yeah, I probably should. He's like, but you know what? If you spend some time on this, this could be a real thing. Like, this car could be amazing. Let me show you the engine I'm working on in the back room. And he takes me in the back room where he has on blocks this beautiful engine that he's detailed that he's getting ready to drop in like after hours. And it's gorgeous. It's amazing. He's like, your Monte Carlo could be that. By the way, I think we should probably do the sport shocks, the whole sport suspension package on your, and I'm adding in my words, piece of car that wasn't worth it, right? He didn't say any of that. He's like, this is amazing. So I didn't even realize I was getting ripped off until Len, I go back out and I sit down and the woman, the receptionist looks at me and goes, oh, Johnny got you the sport package, huh? And I said, yeah. And she goes over and she takes out one of those old Yellow Pages phone books. And in the back were a bunch of coupons. And she takes a coupon and she rips it out with her fingers and she hands it to me and she goes, here, this is going to be kind of expensive and you might want a coupon to offset some of the cost. She's telling me I'm getting ripped off by her boss by giving me a coupon for the, and it went right over my head. I'm like, oh, she's super. Everybody here's so nice. Like these people are just so fantastic.
No, Mabel was your advisor.
But did that happen to you, Paula, where you got ripped off by what was essentially a middleman, like my Midas Muffler dude?
Ooh. Well, so there was one time I had just opened my first business account. This isn't getting ripped off per se, but you'll see where this is going. No spoilers. I had just opened my first business bank account with a major bank that you've all heard of. And
You're not going to call out the bank like Joe called out Midas? Is Midas still around?
Oh, I will.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I'll call out my favorite bank. Was it Bank of America?
It was not Bank of America.
Oh, shoot.
Wells Fargo.
It may or may not have been Wells Fargo. I will neither confirm nor deny that one.
We knew it was one out of the two.
Yeah. So I had just opened an account with them for some, God knows why. When you're young, you do dumb things. And one of the people who work there said, hey, let's have a meeting sometime. I'd love to talk to you about your business. And, for me being in my like mid-20s with nothing better to do with my time, I was like, sure. Ooh, fancy business meeting. I'm going to a business meeting with a bank,
With my bank.
Yes, with my bank. And so like we go to the Starbucks across the street and she's asking me all kinds of questions about my quote unquote business, which at this point is just like me forming an entity so that I can write freelance articles for about.com, right? And she's asking me all kinds of questions about it. And I'm like, well, I did this and that. And she's like, well, maybe one day, you might want a loan. And when you're ready to put in that loan application for a business loan, it's going to look really good if you have a credit card from this bank. And so she convinced me to open up a credit card, which like it's not getting ripped off per se. There was no cash out of pocket.
Look, Paula, she was going to open one up for you whether you said yes or not. It was Wells Fargo. She's probably going to open 3.
But what annoyed me about it was that was back in the heyday. I don't know if y'all remember this, but back then there was this very popular travel hack where you could use the miles to fly to South America, and they counted Easter Island as part of South America, even though it's like very far away. So you could fly all the way to Easter Island for like not very many miles. And it was a hugely popular travel hack, but like back in the day, this is like 12, a million years ago, 12 years ago, 12 to 14 years ago. And I remember at that time, I decided not to do it because I was so worried about like, I don't want to impact my credit by opening up a new card and getting a book. So like I was being over the top cautious about my credit score and my credit history. And I was intentionally foregoing taking out credit cards that would have given me miles to travel. And in the middle of all of that, I let myself get talked into
Another
opening
credit
up
card.
this Wells Fargo card. Yeah.
Which, by the way, helped your credit
Yeah.
because you had more credit open. you
Yes,
had more
your credit utilization
Well-
ratio. That's correct.
Eventually, but the average age of account went down, right? Average age of account went down, number of recent new applications, all of that counts against you in the short term.
Eric, not to pile on, but well, let's pile on. You
not?
must have had that back in the day. Got taken by a middleman.
Well, I had a Pontiac Grand Am. That was
Yes. Nice.
If I was taken regarding the car, it was definitely the Alpine stereo with the CD changer in the trunk and everything. Circuit City took great care of me. Let me tell you, I had a stereo that could break windows in the house as I passed by. I've certainly experienced times where I feel ripped off, and a lot of times it really is with the contractor types. It's when you're redoing your landscaping or your backyard or something, things that you're not necessarily going to be good at. I don't know off the top of my head if I have one that I can think of, but I know it's happened, and I know it usually happens from less reputable, less professional entities.
But maybe that's also why, Eric, that's a great transition point, I think, for us, because maybe that's why there's so much distrust with financial people, is because people feel inadequate. They feel like they don't know. And you've got some commission people that are in there going, hey, Paula, you don't know how this works. Why don't I get you a credit card that gives me a commission? And really, frankly, over the short run, I don't know if it hurts or helps. It frankly was just extra, right? It wasn't anything. Yeah. So Eric, it's funny. We had Michael Kitzes on, industry expert, and he said that there really should be a difference between like advisors and advisors. Like we should, there's people that give you advice and there's people that are simply just middlemen, because it's really tough to tell the difference between the two.
Well, one of the biggest problems with the financial industry is that there's no common path and no single standard to get into the industry. There are a lot of people out there calling themselves financial advisors who are most certainly not. They are salespeople for entities, for organizations, for banks, for trust companies, for mutual fund companies, for brokerages, and they call themselves financial advisors. And so, if you're going to be a CPA, you have to take that exam. That's the prep. If you're going to go to law school, you want to be a lawyer, you have to get your JD. You can be a financial advisor by fogging a mirror and showing up your first day. And you're the financial advisor here. You might not be licensed yet, but you're a financial.
Yeah, just like joining the pitching staff on the Detroit Tigers.
Well,
So you're saying all lawyers have to have Jack Daniels? Is that what you're saying?
They
when
do.
You get it? Okay.
They do, and a lot of it. But no, there's a common path. There is no path into our business. And consumers have no idea the difference between a CFP practitioner and some other designations, some of which take years of study and some of which are a certificate you can earn by sitting in a room for 4 hours. And unfortunately, consumers have to beware. They have to really understand. And it's kind of still the Wild West. We see all the time. I can't tell you how often, Joe, I see somebody who comes into our office who has 20 annuity contracts and life insurance policies that somebody has sold them over the course of 5-10 years. And I'm like, oh my God.
Or even worse, Eric, they buy, and this is getting a little nerdy, they have 5 annuity contracts that are all sold at the same time, all just under the break point where the advisor, quote, advisor is going to get paid less.
There are some of that I do see, but generally people think they're getting financial advice and they're being sold product. And these so-called advisors are making a lot of money to make that happen. And then they disappear because there's no ongoing revenue. There's no relationship. They've essentially victimized someone. And that bothers me because we're lumped into the same group in lots of ways from a regulatory standpoint. We are, it's one of those industries where I still think you're guilty till proven innocent. And that's not really the way it's supposed to work, at least not the way I recall.
Well, and not only is it not supposed to work that way, but Len, getting back to Taylor Swift here, because I think this is a great analogy. A lot of our stackers forego advice to save on fees and because they don't know how to trust. And yet there's no, and this might be a duh statement, Len, but I think that Taylor didn't come up with this decision to avoid Hollywood just on her own. Like I will bet you as much money as you want to bet that Taylor probably had a team of really smart people advising her that cutting out these middlemen was a good idea. So she has advisors.
Somebody that wealthy, I mean, has to have. I mean, she probably has an army. And in the article I was reading, I mean, even her father and her mother are both. At least her father was definitely, I think, has in that realm of business, and I'm sure he was totally aware of that little loophole or whatever that she came up with to exploit the new laws, the laws that are out there right now. It's nice to have an army of advisors, but again, she can afford it. And she's so wealthy. The fact is, frankly, she can afford getting bad advice. She's so wealthy. She has so much wealth. It really doesn't matter, does it? I mean, for us on the margin where we're not as wealthy as her. I mean, it's important to make sure you get what you pay for. Her with her army, I don't think it matters quite as much, although she clearly got some great advice with the movie thing.
Do you have so much money you can afford to get bad advice?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that nice? Well, that's the ultimate.
I do think about that. Eric, earlier on, you talked about how she's buying her catalog back and she survived. She survived that, right? And she is more popular than ever.
She has created a connection. She's created a community that all businesses try to do, and she's succeeded at it. Her fan club is not like other fan clubs. I mean, I know there's a Bruce Springsteen fan club out there and there's a Metallica fan club or whatever.
They're like second only behind the Stacker community.
You're right. It's very similar to your audience. But she's created a community. And if she says, please go out and buy a red bathing suit, people will go out and buy a red bathing suit. You don't have that kind of pull, Joe.
Doug's wearing his now.
Doug does, but you don't. But no, she literally could tell these people to do anything, and I believe they would do it. And so when she says, please go spend potentially more money on this album that you already have. It's got a few extra songs on it. That's a bonus. Or please just use this on your streaming because it benefits me. And people want to help her. They literally, despite the fact that she, I believe, is about to be a billionaire, if she isn't already, people like her and they want to help her anyway. That's an amazing thing.
It is an amazing thing. And I go back to what Len's talking about, though, Paula. I think that, sure, Taylor's got enough money where she can get bad advice. But I think that those of us that are playing it much, much closer to the vest, like there's a time in my life where if I'd gotten some great advice, it would have solved. I would have sped up my trajectory by 5 years, maybe 6 years, just by having better people in my corner.
I don't know if there's ever a time in your life that you can afford to get bad advice, no matter how much or how little you have. Because to your point, Joe, if you have a very small amount of money, then you do not have the margin to make mistakes. And conversely, with a small amount of money, doubling a small amount is life-changing, right? If you've got 10 million and you double it to 20, cool. You went from rich to more rich. But if you've got 10,000 and you double it, your net worth is 10,000 and you double it to 20, that's life-changing, right? It completely changes the way you think, the way you see the world, the way you believe in yourself. I mean, so when you have very little money, you definitely do not have the margin to take bad advice. When you have a lot of money, you also really can't afford bad advice because you've got a lot of people who are depending on you at that point. You've got staff to pay, right? You've got you've got a whole team and they have salaries and they have health insurance and they have retirement and you are responsible for that entire team.
And just to take this Taylor Swift issue and really make that hit home, Paul, exactly what you're saying about close to the vest versus some of these very rich people. Doug, you found this. This is comedian Gary Gulman talking about exactly, Paula, what you're talking about right now.
That's right.
20, it means nothing to him. Nothing. A 20 is more annoying to Bill Gates than a nickel is to us. Exponentially more annoying. Do you know what Bill Gates has to pull out of an old coat? I feel like I did with a $20 bill. First of all, the idea that Bill Gates has an old coat is preposterous. This man doesn't have an old... If he has an old coat, it can... All right, this is what Bill Gates has to find in an old coat to feel like I did with a $20 bill. Here comes the ratio. All right. $20 is to my net worth. Let's use the median net worth for a man my age in this country, which is $100,000, and seems high. All right. $20 is to $100,000 as X is to 59 billion. Cross multiply and solve for X. He has to reach in and pull out, I kid you not, a $12 million bill.
So clearly, Bill Gates can afford some bad advice in his corner, maybe.
Well, Joe, in fairness, Bill Gates can, because people with real wealth maybe can afford a mistake. But you know who can't is folks like professional athletes who aren't necessarily high net worth, but do have sudden wealth and sudden income, who often have the worst advisors and the worst hangers on and the worst middlemen you can fathom, and often wind up broke. I mean, people who make 8 figures, some of them, wind up with nothing because they're getting horrendous advice from people who are sort of in the friends and family category. I think it's also like lottery winners who wind up bankrupt because they don't have the right team in place to grow into that. And so bad advice, I think, is real dangerous, especially if it's not what you do. I mean, for some, if I were to suddenly find $12 million in my coat, which would be wonderful, I'm hoping I didn't wear a coat today, but if I did, and there were $12 million in it, because of what I do, I would know what to do with it. But in most cases, someone with sudden wealth who doesn't do this for a living is going to make terrible mistakes. And if they don't have the right advisors already and they think the one they've been using is ready to handle that, they might not be.
I'm super excited. We're going to start diving into how we solve that because none of us are Taylor Swift yet. But we're all working on it. I mean, Len is an engineer. Maybe you can help us with kind of a process on decision making. Eric, with your background as a CFP, and Paula, we're going to talk about Paula as somebody who the fire movement really. I mean, you've been in 2 of the fire movement movies, I think, at least 2. We're going to talk about Paula gets lots of advice, and yet the fire movement kind of goes, advice, we don't want them. We're going to talk about that all in the second half of this conversation. But before that, we got something far, far more important than any of that, don't we? Because we have this amazing competition going on between our 3 contributors on Fridays, Len, Penzo, Paula, Pant, and our own OG, who, Eric, you are OG today. Congratulations.
I feel like OG today. Thank you.
And that means that you get some good news and some bad news. Which one would you like first?
I always prefer the bad news first.
Well, the bad news is, even though you've won the last 2 years in a row, you are not winning this particular competition. Now, good news is you've sped up, and now you are in a tie for second with Len Penzo, who I believe, Len, you're the 2-time champion before OG was the 2-time champion. And the woman who hasn't won in at least 4 years, and I don't think she's ever won, is Paula. Paula's in first with 12 while Len and OG have 11.
What?
The hell's going on, Paula?
Len, I think if we work together, we might have a chance.
You're telling me, Eric, I haven't won in so long. I can't remember the last time I won one of these.
I would like you to refer to me as OG.
Oh, sorry, OG.
At least during the trivia portion of the show.
Well, the good news is Len, you get to go last this time, which you've been pining
I'm excited.
because OG is our current reigning champion, so he goes in the middle. Paula's going to have to guess first. That's a rarity. But for all that, we need to know our trivia questions. So what do we got for him today, Doug?
Hey, everybody, I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. You know, the 90s were a golden era for sitcoms. Some of my favorites, Home Improvement, Wings, Drew Carey Show, Blossom. Many shows
You were a
of the
huge
decade.
Blossom fan.
Duh, who wasn't? Hey, look, many shows of the decade, like Roseanne and Seinfeld, they centered around a comedian's real life or their stand-up act, instantly launching the title character into superstardom. Other shows helped launch the careers of actors who were unknown at the time, like, ER's George Clooney. I say this with an unblemished record of staunch heterosexuality. That man is foxy. One sitcom that famously launched a cast of undiscovered talent was Friends. Debuting on this day in 1994, it has since become one of the most watched sitcoms of all time, earning Warner Brothers an astounding $1 billion each year in syndication. Wow.
Wow.
Imagine if my El Camino had a resale value like that. I could never part with her, though. I don't care what the value is. Anyway, today's trivia question is, the 6 cast members all earned the same number of Benjamins for season 1. Season 1. So, how much did each of the 6 main cast members cha-ching for the show's entire first season? I'll be right back with the answer after I finish writing this pilot about living next to Joe's mom. That's probably going to end up being a whodunit.
Where one announcer of a particular podcast might go missing after a while. Who knows?
Wait, I'm the victim here? Of course I am.
So we start off with Paula Pant, 6 members of Friends, the entire season. Add up all 6 of their paychecks for every episode, multiply by the number of episodes, and that's today's answer.
All right. So the question, I want to be very clear. The question is not what did each person earn per episode.
Yeah,
the question
that's
is
what I
what
wanna
is
know.
the total amount that they earned for the entire season.
I think I just said
Correct.
that.
But the question is, how many episodes were there in season 1? It
Yeah,
might have been a mini
yeah.
season.
Right.
Yes, correct.
I think that's a useful backstory.
Man, that would be super useful if we furnished that or if you knew.
Yeah.
And it's how much did any one given individual
All
cast
of
member
them
make?
collectively.
All of them collectively.
No. That is not correct, Joe.
Oh,
that is
I
not
thought it was
correct.
any one individual.
Sorry.
They all
It's
got paid. They all got
individual, but
paid
they
the
all
same.
earned-
They all earned
They
the
all
same.
earned the same amount. So
Okay.
if you added up everything they earned for each episode, by the end of that season, how much did they make?
Apparently, if
Okay,
I'm not
cool.
quiet, I'll be the victim of that whodunit.
Cross multiply and solve for X.
Cross multiply, solve for X. Okay, so let me think through this. So, let's see. I'm sure it takes maybe a couple weeks to make a show. You're paying for labor, then they've got to do.
That doesn't even.
1992.
Then they got to do some promos. They're previously unknown.
Who was known from that cast before Friends? Any of them?
Well, yeah.
I think
think-
Courtney Cox
Courtney
was
Cox
probably
was-
the
Oh,
biggest
no,
name.
no. Who's
Yeah.
Joey? Was Joey? I think he was known too, wasn't he?
No.
Matt LeBlanc,
No, I
not
don't think
much.
so.
No,
No.
he was pretty unknown.
Courtney Cox had been in the Bruce Springsteen video before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But nobody
She'd
knew
been in a
that.
couple
That
other
was
things.
that was after the fact, right?
That
Yeah.
was the same person, you mean? Yeah.
What I mean is, I don't
Like, she
think that
recorded
was a
it
trivia
beforehand,
question.
but-
That wasn't a trivia
Yeah.
question until she got onto Friends, right?
Right.
Right.
No, that's fair.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume they made $5,000 per episode times 10 episodes. So I'm gonna say 50,000.
$50,000.
Interesting. I actually also wrote down 5,000 per episode, but I think there were either 22 or 26 in the first season.
Ooh.
And so I'm going to go with 26 times 5, which in my head is $130,000.
$130,000 in Eric's head, and then the math of
Yeah, I did that in my head. I hope it's right.
Just to be fair, just to be fair about this, because I think you guys misunderstood. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Don't you have to multiply times the 6 cast members as well?
It's just
No.
one cast member.
No, it's
each.
It's just one. The answer we're looking for is one cast member.
So what did
how
one
much-
cast member make in one season?
Yeah.
Yes.
Season
One
1.
season, yes.
I think Len's in trouble because he listened to me.
Yeah.
But
and
that's
not
good.
Doug, which is weird. Yeah, it's weird
good
that I
'cause-
just said that out loud.
Because I could
Listen,
pull into a
So
tie with
Eric,
Paula.
Eric is guessing 26 episodes.
Yeah.
which
A half a year.
Times $5,000.
Which I think that's what it used to be. It used to be 26. I mean, nowadays these shows only have like 10 episodes. It seems
Some of them have 6. I just got done watching the show Doug recommended called Fisk, which is Australian, and that was 6 episodes.
What?
That's a
okay,
rom.
So what's
that's
the
a
highest?
that's a rom com, Joe.
It's a very very much like Flight of the Conchords kind of comedy. Very like they're playing it completely straight, and it's hilarious.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the highest number? What was
It's
Eric?
Highest number is
130,000.
130,000.
And 130 and Paula's was what?
50.
5,000 seems that seems really, I mean, that seems absurdly, that seems really absolutely low. I think 26 episodes is correct, though. I think back then, because one of my favorite comedies is King of Queens. I love King of Queens. And man, I watched that. They run that thing all the time. And there's always 26 episodes. And that show ran until like 2007 or something. So I'm just going to assume that Eric's guess is low. So I'll just do $1 over whatever Eric said.
Is Jerry Stiller your guru, Len, for your jokes?
I love Jerry Stiller. I think he died, didn't he? He passed away recently. But
yes.
Yeah, but yeah, hey, that guy was, oh my God, that guy was a comedian.
So funny.
He was so good.
So incredible.
Yeah.
So it's $130.01 or 130.
31,000.
Just
131,000.
If I had to guess, I would say they were getting paid like 10,000 an episode or something. But 5 just seems ridiculous. But
well,
anyway, doesn't matter, does it? I just have to go $1 more.
Like to tell you if Len's thinking is right or Paula's or Eric's, but we will let you know in a minute. Paula, you kick this off. $5,000 an episode, 10 episodes. Sounds like Eric and Len kind of disagree with you.
Yeah, so upon further reflection, I stand by my guess of 5,000 per episode, but I think Eric and Len are right that there are probably more episodes in season 1.
The good news is, Eric, Len left you with all the downside halfway to Paula's answer, so you got a shot. You feeling good?
I think yes. I think yes. My wife contributes more to the syndication royalties of Friends than any human on the planet, by the way. Friends is on in our house, so help me, I think all day. I don't know how.
Quote it?
Oh my God. Every episode. It's an absurdity.
I always feel like I could do that.
My daughter loves that show.
Does she really? I feel like I could do that with Seinfeld, and yet I always end up seeing an episode I've never seen before. Like
if she would have answered this question to the penny. Like I wanted to phone a friend.
Is she around? Is she nearby?
She's not here.
Her?
I am at my office, and she is not at the office. Could I text her? Yeah, I could, if for curiosity's sake. But see,
yeah,
but now if she knew,
I don't think she's going to get it.
No, but she would Google it.
We should do
now.
that.
She would Google it if she had. She would want to be right.
Your answers are locked in.
Well, mine's locked in. I know, but I think she would Google it. So I'd rather hear it from you, and then I'll question it.
Yeah. Send her the text, and then you'll get the answer during the second half of the show.
All right, I will do that.
We'll reveal.
I will do that right now. She'll be thrilled to know that she's being discussed
Eric's got 100,
on this show.
yes.
Which, by the way, I'm only being paid $5,000 for this episode, right?
As I try to move on, Len, you've got $130,001.
You know what? I was feeling really good a second ago, but now I just remembered something. Usually first seasons, I remember Friends was like first seasons are, they give you only a limited number of episodes.
Like mid-season replacements.
It is possible.
And now I think I just freaking screwed up.
Yeah, I probably got the win is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I should have guessed 13 or 12 episodes because it was, when it first comes on, I bet it was a mid-season replacement. I just screwed up.
See, my thinking when I guessed 10 episodes was that I figured that for the very first season, they would want to commit to producing enough episodes that they could see whether or not this show would be a success, but no more, no less. So if you have fewer than 10, if you've got like 3 episodes, it's too soon to say. 10 is enough to give you some good data. Beyond that, 15, 20, 25. Now you're making a financial commitment to something that's not tested. So that was my thinking at the time that I initially said 10 episodes. But of course, in retrospect,
Holy
the 90s
crap.
were a different time where we had
Did you learn this
we
in
had
Columbia?
fewer shows.
I need a more comfortable chair.
If we keep this conversation going, it's going to be next
I'm gonna
Friday's
be-
episode.
Speaking of being committed to something you didn't sign up for, man, Doug,
Yeah,
give us an
right.
answer, please.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm aspiring actor and eventual hit TV series creator, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. At the height of the show's popularity, Friends drew an incredible 52.5 million viewers. That's slightly more people than have watched my oil change tutorials on YouTube. By the time the show peaked, each of the actors in the ensemble's core cast were making $1 million an episode after famously negotiating contracts that paid them all equally. But today's trivia question was, how much did each of the 6 main cast members earn for the show's first season? Well, I can answer this question right off the bat, guys. Season 1 of Friends had 24 episodes.
Ooh, all right, close.
That's good.
And each actor took home, well, I'm not going to tell you just yet. What I will tell you is that Paula's guess was off by $490,000. Eric's guess was off by $410,000. Len was off by just $409 because each actor took home $22,500 per episode for a total of $540,000 for the entire season, which means Len is our winner.
Okay, Len, I'm impressed. My wife said 500K.
Wow.
Okay.
500K.
Wow.
So I think OG
She was
should
close.
get the point on account of Meredith's text. If you're Len, I'm sorry, but I think this should count. I phoned a friend.
Here's what, if she doesn't listen to the show, Eric, you just tell her it won the game for you and you're good.
No, it didn't. It should have.
No,
But
I'm
she
saying
doesn't
she
know
doesn't know
that.
that. Yes.
Yeah, no, but if I lie to her, this would be the first episode of your show she listens to, and I can't let that happen.
There it goes.
And the last one you're ever on.
No, can't let that happen.
And I was trying to get your wife as a listener there too.
Well, and she might be now that she knows we're talking about Friends and Taylor Swift.
There it is.
You know what? This season's going to come down to just like a basketball game or a football game. That whoever guesses last in the last version is going to win. That's how this is
possession
going to
game.
end up.
Being that OG is now in sole possession of last place, I would like to be referred to as Eric again.
The second half of this Taylor Swift discussion is brought to you by depositaccounts.com. Eric, you know what goes on when you go to depositaccounts.com?
I don't, Joe. Tell me.
Oh, you find out that you can compare more than 275,000 deposit rates from over 11,000 banks and credit unions and do it for free. And I'm pulling this up a little bit before we record, so you want to go to depositaccounts.com, you guys. National average on a savings account right now as we record is 0.45. But the top 1% average, 4.78. So if you get one that's in the top 1%, much better off. CDs, a 1-year CD, national average 3.78. 1-year CD, the top 1% are paying 5.63%. Money markets, top 1%, 4.63. National average, 0.75. You know how I know that? I'm at depositaccounts.com. You could be too. How about that? Try to hold a straight face. Perfect.
Sorry.
All right. Let's get back to Taylor Swift. I love this idea. I love case analysis. I think it's interesting watching some of these people that are in the media a lot. Paula, I want to kick this off with you because of the fact that, as I mentioned before the break, you've been in a couple of the movies that are about the FIRE movement. FIRE movement, well known for taking advisors and shoving them aside. Very well known. Mm-hmm. A lot of big names have said you don't need advisors, and yet you don't even run your own company. Don't you have a separate CEO for your company?
Oh, I used to. Not anymore. Not anymore. For Afford Anything?
Yes.
I used to. I offered a CEO position to one of our former employees. I tried to promote from within. She had been with the company for 6 years. And so I was like, you know what? I want to be the content creator. I want to focus all of my time on being in front of the microphone, in front of the camera, or writing, right? And so can you run this? Can you run the operations? Can you handle everything behind the scenes so that I can focus on being on stage, being in front of a camera, being in front of a microphone, being at a keyboard, writing at a keyboard, right? So that was my thought, trying to separate the maker from the manager. She left very shortly after that. She felt out of her depth.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, but still,
so now I'm the CEO again. The reluctant CEO of my own company.
Well, I guess that's the key word then, Paula. That might be what I'm driving at then is frankly reluctant. Surrounding yourself with these people that supplement your ability to do what you do best, which I think is kind of the definition of an advisor, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, so I think advisor in the broadest term, I mean, a person who advises, I like to think of it as your personal board of directors or your personal trusted comrades. It can be friends. It can be, I mean, just anyone whom you think has good judgment and who serves as a sounding board. I think it's important not to constantly be going to the same people over and over, especially like just one or two, because then it can be echo chambery. So I do think that you need some expanse. And when selecting advisors, look for people who have results that are similar to what you want to achieve. Be leery of taking advice from people who do not have the outcomes that you want. And that's true of all domains, not just business, but in relationships, in any facet of life, any vertical of life. And the other thing is, remember that certain people are better at certain types of advice than others. Certain people are going to be really good at finance, but not so good at business per se. Some people are really good at marketing, but they're not that great at leading a team. So modulate.
Eric, it's interesting because, you made the point before that anybody can call themselves a financial advisor. I want to know how you feel about this. I really like where Paula's starting from, because instead of starting from where a lot of financial media does, we'll make sure they're a CFP, make sure they're a fiduciary, make sure like these X boxes. Instead, start off with, number one, are they going to think of them as somebody who's going to give you advice, who's going to be on your board, who might have your best interest in mind, and who also has results like you want. I think isn't that number one? And then we go, make sure they're a CFP, make sure they're a fiduciary.
Well, it's a good point, but a hard thing to do, because financial advisors are not allowed to tout results. So, and with every client, every family is so different that you're going to have a different approach or different experience. I think quantifying results in our space is extremely difficult. We can't do full testimonials. It's not like we can have everybody yelping how terrific we are. We can't talk about returns in an investment portfolio. We sure as heck can't guarantee or promise anything. So it really, I think, comes down to stewardship and trust but verify without question. I think you want to make sure that if you're going to hire a financial advisor, you hire one who works with folks in your stage of life or in your situation, and that you're in their roundhouse. You don't want to be somebody's biggest client or somebody's smallest client. I do think that makes sense, but you're not going to know. Unfortunately, you can check a compliance record and see if they have complaints against them or criminal issues, but unfortunately, it's hard to test results in our space. Now, if you're getting a recommendation from a friend or from a CPA or from some other advisor, presumably they're going to send you to somebody they have confidence in who has gotten results for them or for people they know. But we can't advertise that like, you're going to get a better result here any more than a surgeon can.
We did an episode of on hiring a financial advisor recently. It was the Michael Kitz's episode with Dana Ansbach and OG here recently. We'll link to that in the show notes. Let's, Len, get rid of the middlemen then. You're somebody I know who really, you're very much about the decision-making process. And as an engineer, I would bet that it'd be very difficult to be Len Penzo's advisor.
Well, I was thinking about it while sitting here listening to Paul and Eric talking about the advisors. And I was thinking, in my line of work, I was an advisor actually. I wasn't the CEO, but I was an advisor to the CEO. I was an advisor to my immediate boss, and the people under me were advisors to me. And it makes me think, okay, well, there was a common thread for all, regardless of who was doing the advising, there was a common thread, at least in my business, that we expected when we were being advised by our advisors. And they had to give us the pros of everything that came in front of us. What were the pros to evaluate? What were the cons? We had to know the upside risk of implementing that whatever was being discussed. We had to know the downside risks. And then we also had to know, or at least be given a good estimate, and it's assumed that we're experts in what we were advising on, of what was the probability of that upside and downside risk. And if you had all that, that's all the CEO needed, or that's all that the chief engineer needed, or that's all that whoever else needed to make a decision. So I would think when you're looking for an advisor, you should make sure that your advisor, and this goes across everything, not just engineering, across finances and everything in life. If you can get all 5 of those pieces of information, your advisor's doing a great job for you. Now, again, remember, that's, he's the expert. Experts do make mistakes on occasion, but generally they should be, they should be in the ballpark and giving you, that should be good advice for you.
Well, a piece of that I really like, Eric, is that I like that in Len's definition, your advisor can't just be a yes man or a yes woman.
Absolutely.
That woman or man has to be willing to tell you when you're stepping in it. And I think that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to do.
Well, you also, I think, owe it to your client to tell them why they might not want to implement something you're suggesting. And so to Len's point of the upside and the downside, you might say, there's a lot of different ways to address this issue or to solve this problem or to reach this objective. This is the one that I like, and let me tell you why, but here's what can go wrong, or here are the things that we have to look out for. And here's some alternatives. I think it's important to have some alternatives without saying, here's 48 options, pick one, because people get overwhelmed. I think it's helpful to say, this is what I think you should do, but I'm not mandating. That's if this makes you uncomfortable, there are 3 other solutions out there that we can look at, but this is what I like, and this is why I like it. And these are the things that could be pitfalls, because there is no perfect solution. And that to me is it's a very fair way and a very open way to communicate with someone. And you're not telling them this is the be all end all. This is what you have to do, buy, own, whatever.
That was my favorite thing when I was an advisor. Yeah.
I just want to say, like, for example, the guy who might be trying to sell you an annuity, of course he's going to give you the pros of the annuity. Oh, here's all the advantage of it. But if he's an honest broker, he's going to tell you the downside risks and the alternatives to that annuity as well. That's when you're getting all the information you need. If he's just feeding you information about why you need that annuity, then you probably need, somebody else to get some other advice who's more honest.
I think I like Roger Whitney's answer on this. Anybody who leads with product instead of process is definitely just a middleman or a middlewoman, right?
Definitely.
I mean, they definitely are. So if they lead, Len, with an annuity, if I know they just sell annuity and they say annuity, even if they give me the downside, I still worry about that, which I guess Paul leads me to this. Let's say you're not an expert in car insurance, but you want to go get car insurance and you really don't know how it works. So you go to Allstate or State Farm. They have commission salespeople. They have good commission salespeople. I've got an Allstate agent, but I really, to Len's point, if they're selling the car insurance, I want to kind of get educated there. How do I get around using the middleman's advice and still get educated on something that's as necessary as car insurance?
I mean, first, if you want to get educated, I wouldn't go to a salesperson. There are a lot of free resources online, in books, on blogs, on podcasts, on reputable websites. In forums, there's a lot of free information that you can sort through, and I think that'll be a better source of education.
Well, I'm gonna stop right there, because the forum piece is the one that drives me crazy. Because I've seen, ever since I switched from the financial advising side to the financial media side, I've seen so much crap, half advice that also has an agenda, but you don't know what the agenda is because they're hiding behind a keyboard.
Right.
So the forum piece is the one I disagree with so much.
Yeah, well, anything online, you need the judgment to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff, right? And when you're first getting started, when you're learning about a subject that you know nothing about, then you need the humility to say, hey, I don't know anything about this. I'm going to read a very wide array of viewpoints. And if I am starting to read about this and I do not encounter conflicting viewpoints, that should be a red flag, because every field, whether it's personal finance or art dealing or, car repair, or fitness or health, right? Every field has widely dissenting viewpoints. And so if you're just beginning to get educated about something, you should first get the lay of the land. And that will give you at least a foundation for being able to separate the wheat from the chaff again.
That sounds like what Paula's. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, the other thing, though, Joe, to your direct question about what do you do if you talk to a salesperson directly, is I would listen for what is it that they're saying that they will actually be accountable for versus what is it that they're saying that where they bear no accountability.
What do you mean?
The example,
yeah, go ahead.
The example I'm thinking about in my head is a mortgage broker, right? At the time that I was buying my condo, who in this, he worked specifically for this building, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, you got to get in now because the values in this building, the condo values in this building, they're only going to go up. And I'm like, you have no skin in the game. If your statement is correct, cool. But if it is incorrect, you're not actually the person who suffers because you're a mortgage broker. You've collected your commission and you're done. So you have no accountability to the statement that you've just made.
And that, I like Paula's point there. If I can, you can also do that on the flip side, which is, we have a lot of folks who will ask us about things like car insurance, and we don't represent an insurance company and we don't sell product or anything like that, but we will look at and help our clients go through a couple of different proposals. Same thing with the mortgage piece. Let's get 3 good faith estimates from different mortgage people, and we'll help you navigate it and help you make a decision because we have zero skin in that game. Like it's not. We don't stand to have positive or negative outcomes at all. We're just here to help you.
That is my favorite piece of advice, Eric, is find somebody in a related field who would be in an ancillary way, maybe not a complete expert, but has knows where the pitfalls are. Len, you've got that guy in your corner. You talk about your CPA, cousin Kevin, I think?
Cousin Kev. Yeah, my cousin Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of that guy, right? Yeah.
Oh, he is. You know what? I love he started giving me advice when I was a teenager. And you know what? He started young with me and he really set me up on the right track right away.
That's a guy on your board of advisors.
Yes. To this day, I still go to him when I have, I don't think I need advice. Yes.
This is another piece of advice that I like was I think what Paula said indirectly was don't think about all the things think about where the holes in your logic are. And I would think that in your career you guys are literally building rockets. That's building aerospace equipment. You got to think about where's the flaw in my thinking.
Of course. Of course. And believe me, there's if you have enough people looking at, questioning your work and looking at it, you're going to get that feedback that you have to get. If you give advice and nobody pushes back, I don't care if it's great advice. If nobody's pushing back, that's not good. Somebody should at least be pushing back, even if if the pushback is not warranted. That way, somebody else, it forces you to answer why it is warranted, or it lets you reflect. But you should always bounce off advice you're getting, whether it's good or bad, off of others and get other feedback.
Yeah, I like that old phrase, Len, that if you've got a group of 10 people in the room and they all agree, then somebody's not thinking.
Yeah, that's right. And that's right. And that's how we used to do it too. It's like there had to be somebody had to push back, even if just to play devil's advocate, somebody had to do it because you're getting nothing done if all 10 people are nodding their head because you don't know. You've got to be forced into some sort of reflection on the advice you're being given.
I thought you meant you get 10 of that. We get 10 people in a room together and all just nod our head. I'm like, that sounds like corporate America right there, Len. No?
Well, actually, it is in a lot of places. Not where I worked, but yes, it is in a lot of
Eric, I want to end this with you because looking at the different areas of financial planning, what's an area of financial planning where way too many people are doing it themselves and they probably need an advisor in their corner?
I think on the legal and estate piece, when you start talking about
100%,
I think the 2 things people shouldn't do themselves ever are draft their will with some online tool, because that is a very complicated area and it's not to be done simply. And I would also say I wouldn't do your own taxes. Because I do think having a second set of eyes on those kinds of things can help you, and having a professional can help you. There is nothing that we do as financial advisors that is building rockets or sending men to the moon. There isn't. And there's nothing we do that people can't do for themselves. And so the DIYers, there's nothing I do that you can't do for yourself. However, there's 30 years of wisdom here, and there's markets that I've seen that others haven't, or there are strategies I've seen that others haven't. And just having somebody to bounce off of, I think, is useful. So, we'll engage somebody, Joe, on a flat fee basis that has nothing to do with product. We'll talk about the analysis, the recommendations, and then if they want to do it themselves and implement themselves, go do it. But get that third party to look at this holistically. Do the 50,000-foot look and see what you're missing, because a lot of people know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, my analogy when I was an advisor was, I'm a smart guy. I've driven cars. I kind of know how a car works. I could build one. It would take me about 15 years. It would run like, but I could build one. I prefer to go buy one. I prefer to take the people, who do this every day and engage them to do that. But the estate plan piece that you mentioned, so important. And even if the online will, Eric, works, the frustrating thing is your family then is going to, they're going to need help. And if you've already pre-chosen the lawyer, because they're going to go to the lawyer that did the will if you had one. If you've already pre-interviewed, this person, they know you, they've done the estate, it makes it so much simpler on everybody after you. Don't get me wrong, you'll be dead, you won't care. But you used the general contractor conversation earlier tonight. The general contractor idea is that we could do this ourselves, be our own GC and pick our own subs. But I don't know how to identify a terrific electrician, a terrific plumber, a terrific anything. So I need to find a general contractor I trust who will pick good specialists and work with them. And I think financial planners, CFPs, are the same way. Let us help you find the right lawyer, tax person, real estate person, mortgage person, banker, insurance agent, all of those things, and let's vet them. And if you don't like them, we'll find you somebody else. But let's have a second set of eyes on all of the advice you're getting from the subs. Paula, we talked about that on Stacking Deeds recently, that a lot of people doing DIY and real estate think that their time's best spent. What was the analogy about putting in floorboards, right?
Yes, exactly. Putting in floorboards, right? And if you were to instead spend that time actually growing the business, on expanding, on buying one additional rental property, that acquisitions piece, that is, in the long term, a substantially better use of your time.
We will, man, so much good advice today. I think it's interesting dissecting this Taylor Swift move, because clearly, while Len, Taylor can afford to lose a few dollars if she gets this wrong, I get the feeling she didn't get this wrong. Like, it just feels like she nailed this. And
I think she did.
And it's exciting.
Yeah. But she also has a $12 million bill in her old coat.
That's true.
Hey, real quick, though, I will say
she
this.
Doesn't have an old coat.
Eric was talking about how she went back and re-recorded her stuff so she could have control of it. There's nothing I hate worse than buying some music and then find out it's a re-recording from somebody, and it just sounds totally different to me.
Well, it depends if it sounds better or not. At the end of the
not
day,
a new thing.
I would agree with you that you don't want to rehash things, but I would say that some of the stuff that she did when she was 15 is better now that she's matured somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right, Eric. And it's been going on for a while in the industry. I know we're trying to wrap up, Joe, but I think Taylor Swift's is just the most famous because it was the whole catalog. But Len, if you hear Pour Some Sugar on Me now, anytime in like the last 5 to 8 years, you heard a re-recorded version and you cannot tell.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. I heard it live at Wrigley Field last July, and it did not sound pre-recorded.
No,
it was good. Def Leppard was good. Motley Crue, for the record, can no longer play, but Def Leppard was terrific.
Right. I'm just saying that, like, Len, I know what you mean. You hear a re-recorded version and you can tell their voice sounds different.
Yeah,
There's something maybe overproduced about the instruments or something. But that's an example of a song that they had to recreate in order to capture the revenue from it, their biggest hit or one of their biggest hits. And it's very hard to distinguish the difference. But I'm with you, Eric. I love her re-recorded stuff. I think her voice has a lot more depth to it now.
She is definitely going to hear this show.
Oh,
she's definitely going to listen to this.
Of course.
And so, Taylor, if you're listening, my 13-year-old daughter would love to have you at her birthday party in December. So let me know if you can make it.
If you could play that, if you could maybe do a song or two for us.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
That'd be great. And by the way, back to Motley Crue for a moment. The people that I knew that went to see that tour, I'd say 85% of them would have been caught dead seeing them back in the 80s. And now they're like, it's so cool that I'm here. But back in the day, they would have never done that.
Listen, I have the old school. I have the 80s ticket stubs, and I had the 80s haircut, and you may not have a photo.
I think
under
that's
any circumstances.
I think that's a weird enough place to leave
else?
this.
Anybody else notice Paula's conspicuously quiet as soon as we started talking about this
Paula,
pop
tell
culture
us
stuff?
about
Yeah,
Motley
I
Crue,
have
Paula.
it's spelled CRUE.
Yeah.
Oh,
Actually,
nice.
it's CR.
I do know
The
that.
U has an umlaut, though.
Umlaut.
So it's a different
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes. CRU umlaut.
umlaut. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm,
Okay, can I do the credits now or
Please,
something,
God.
Joe?
John, get us out. Well, wait a minute. Before we do that, we got to find out what these wonderful people are doing. We'll have our
All
guest
right.
of honor go last. Mr. Penzo, what's happening at lenpenzo.com?
I don't know. It's the same old stuff. Come on over. Come on over. You know what? Come on over anyways because I need the ad revenue. Right? Just come over and click on about 10 ads, and then I'm retired now, and the extra revenue would help. lenpenzo.com. Click on 3 ads and then leave, and that's all I ask.
We're going to recommend that Len gets himself a marketing advisor. Len needs.
And let me tell you right now, there's plenty of ads on the front page, so you can't miss. So you just try it.
Len, I have literally heard you talk about lenpenzo.com for years, and that is the first thing you've said that makes me want to go to your website.
Oh my God, Paula!
Is there
I thought
any,
you were my
honesty
friend.
is refreshing.
I thought you were my friend.
Len, is there any ad space available? Because I'm looking to buy some ad space, and if that's going to draw a good crowd.
Well, I'll have to see if I can fit. There's hardly any room for anything else. But I can try and squeeze something in, Eric.
Appreciate that.
Eric, after all the Cialis ads that he's got on there.
Well,
Len's,
there's a segue in there somewhere, Joe.
yes, it's a nice, big, long segue. Paula, what's going on?
Len, I'm on your website right now. I'm on your website. I don't see. Oh, there's an ad. Oh, it's a Sephora. Of course, because it's
Oh, God,
targeting
there's
me.
another one. Oh, God, there's another one. Oh.
Wow, there are a lot of
Targeted
ads
just
on
for you.
here.
Click on.
Wow.
Click on 2,
Okay,
Paula.
clicking. I'm clicking on it. There we go.
The real estate ones, I get the most money, I think. So click on the real estate ads.
Speaking of
He's not even trying.
speaking of middlemen, speaking of
I think
commission-based
that's why I
middlemen,
don't do banner advertising.
Holy
but
cow,
thank you
right
for
there.
thank you for reinforcing my business decision.
Yes.
All right,
Paula.
Len, I just clicked on one of your banners.
Paula, so
Paula.
how's your integrity, Paula?
Well, we have started a YouTube channel, and I think, don't actually have ads running on most of our videos. I'm not sure if we have ads running on any of them. If we do, it's only a few. So for an ad-free experience, come to the Afford Anything YouTube channel. YouTube.com/affordanything. Asterisk, I think mostly ad-free experience, but I need to verify that.
I don't know how we got off on this ad thing. Eric, thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Oh, my pleasure. In fact, for the right money, I would get a Stacking Benjamins tattoo on my back. So just let me know if, I'm available for advertising, and the billboard's growing by the year.
Call me, Eric, for the price sheet. I'll tell you exactly.
That's perfect.
If people
That's
want to
perfect.
contact you or your team, how do we find you?
Our website is bfgfa.com. And you can also go to brotmanmedia.com and check out all of our books and resources and courses and lots of personal financial literacy information that is, I believe, ad-free as well.
That's bfgfa.com.
bfgfa.com.
Super. You know what? We'll link to that. We'll link to everything that you guys talked about. And we'll link directly to Len's ads and our show notes.
Actually, you need a middleman, and that would be me. I don't get paid unless you.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that Len learned the point of today's show, but Doug, save us, man. What are our takeaways today?
I'll give it a shot, Joe. First, take some advice from Eric Brotman and company. Don't confuse advice givers with middlemen. Second, looking for a great advisor to add to your team? Head to your local muffler shop. Those guys are practically life coaches. But the big lesson? If you're going to be an actor, I would advise, just a friendly tip from Doug, get yourself onto a major network sitcom that'll one day go into syndication. Skip all those other steps. Just go straight to that one. It's the best way to go. Thanks to Eric for joining us today. You can hear his podcast, Don't Retire, Graduate, wherever you're listening right now. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com.
Doug.
Yeah, we can't do that.
No, you can do that. The last episode just went live Thursday. So if somebody wants to hear the closing show, they'll be very excited about it.
And they might want to do the back catalog. Are you they're still going to be out there?
Absolutely. There's 130 or so episodes. So yeah, absolutely.
Then we'll do it.
Can I keep going?
The longest recording we've ever had. Go ahead.
Thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And thanks to Len Penzo for joining us today. You can find Len at lenpenzo.com/ just click on the ads. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2023, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Our producer is Karen Repine. This show was written by Lisa Curry, who's also the host of the Long Story Long podcast, with help from me, Joe, and Doc G from the Earn and Invest podcast. Kevin Bailey helps us take a deeper dive into all the topics covered on each episode in our newsletter called The 201. You'll find the 411 on all things money at the 201. Just visit stackingbenjamins.com/201. Wonder how beautiful we all are? Of course, you'll never know if you don't check out our YouTube version of this show, engineered by Tina Eichenberg. Then you'll see once and for all that I'm the best thing that ever happened to this show. Once we bottle up all this goodness, we ship it to our engineer, the amazing Steve Stewart. Steve helps the rest of our team sound nearly as good as I do right now. Want to chat with friends about the show later? Of course you do. Mom's friend Gertrude and Kate Youngkin are our social media coordinators, and Gertrude is the room mother in our Facebook group called The Basement. So say hello when you see us posting online. To join all the basement fun with other stackers, type stackingbenjamins.com/basement. Not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show. We would be called FT.
Full-time?
Fucking talent.
Ah.
Like, all the producers and the directors, they're just like, oh, God, fucking talent. Like, they hate us.
Do you like it, Paula, because you have a meeting with Westwood One? I can't stop calling Westwood One all the time like I do. I love meeting with Teresa, our friend Teresa Gage, because she makes sure she always refers to us as talent. When I'm meeting with other talent, I'm like, wait a minute, she's including me in talent.
It's pejorative in the industry. You just should know that, Joe. She's putting lipstick on that bulldog.
Don't tell me that, because for me, that's good.
No.
That's fantastic.
That is when I meet with other holes who think they're hot. That's what that
Is that
means.
what that truly means? Is that it? Then God, Doug, you must be talented.
Yes. Nice save.
That's Mr. Talent to you.
That's right.
That's right. If you're going to go, Eric, you might as well just start digging.
I'm ready.
Just go further.